Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 8th Finance Committee Council as a whole meeting. If we could, I'll call the meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stacey, if I could ask you to please call the roll.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky,
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, First District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon is absent. Councilwoman Elizabeth Johnston,
Councilwoman Liz Johnston, Third District, present.
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano,
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton,
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Peter Massaro,
Councilman Peter Massaro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Trinae McGee,
Councilwoman Trinae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli,
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno is absent. Councilman Barry Lee Cohen,
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Ronald Quagliani.
Council at Large Ron Quagliani, and I'm present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Stacey. Would you read the call of the meeting into the record, please?
Certainly. The West Haven City Council Finance Committee, Council as a whole, will conduct budget meetings on Mayor Nancy R. Rossi's recommended budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 as listed below. Meetings will take place remotely via web conferencing. Departments will receive email instructions on logging into the meetings.
Thank you, Stacey. And tonight is Thursday, April the 8th, and at 6 p.m. we have the Board of Education with us this evening, and I will turn the meeting over to the Finance Chair, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. So I see that we have with us Neil Cavallero, Matt Cavallero, Chairwoman Waterfield, and Marissa. I'm going to butcher your last name. I'm sorry. Akapura?
You did fine.
Yay, thank you. So generally, you guys would just talk about your budget. If you want to go over anything, if you want to share anything with us, let us know, and then we will ask questions as a group towards the end. So you can take it away, Mr. Cavallero or Matt, up to you.
Thank you. So as you saw in my cover letter to the mayor, this year the board asked for $1,600,000, approximately that amount of money over our current budget, which is 1.81%. Now, when we submitted the budget, we didn't know what our Alliance District grant was going to be. We assumed it was going to be what we had been originally, what we had gotten the last few years. However, when the governor released his budget, he did not give us an increase. But as you know, we have COVID relief funds. So some of those COVID relief funds are going to go to supplant our current budget. That's the ESSER 2 funding, which is approximately $9 million, which we're going to have 2 years to spend. So of the $9 million, about $6 million is spoken for to supplant. We do have about $3 million over 2 years to put support programs in place for our kids. We've actually been working very hard and very diligently on what those programs are going to look like over the next couple of years. I also want to clarify that, everybody has talked about ESSER 3 funding. That's the most recent package that was passed under President Biden in the current Congress. That's about $20 million. Now, what I want to emphasize there is that we have no information on that and we don't know what the time frame that's going to be. So for example, if it's $20 million over a year or two, that's a pretty good windfall, and we'll be able to do some very nice creative things. We'll be able to fix some infrastructure and do some things. However, if it's over a 5-year period, then we will, we're not going to, we assume it will be more to supplant our budget. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. So right now that money is up in the air. One of the things we're pretty conscious about is that we don't want to create a lot of new full-time positions. We understand that our kids need support. Many of them will be coming back to school for the first time. In fact, though, let me tell you, our district, in my opinion, has done a great job of keeping track of the kids. We probably have between 75 and 80% of the kids back at the elementary school level in in-person learning, which I think is a credit to our administrators and teachers. We have about 60 to 65% of the kids at Bailey and Carrigan. The high school is a little bit low. It's probably 50 or 55%. We're still going to work hard to get the numbers up, but I think at the high school at this point, I don't anticipate a big jump in kids returning to school this time of year. In fact, I think you're going to get seniors who've either checked out because they're going to college or because they don't know what they're going to do. But
Can I ask you a question? And
Sure.
I'm sorry to be rude, but I'm just very curious. Is there a breakdown of that as to at the high school? Like, is it, 50% of the seniors and 30% of the juniors? Like, do you have and I'm just being curious since you had mentioned it and I just didn't want to lose it. Do you have a breakdown for class as to maybe why?
No, you know what? I can break it down by class. We just never have. What I normally do is once or twice a week, I'll tell Tim, to, call the schools and get me a daily attendance, and we monitor it pretty closely. But we're really pleased with the number of kids who are coming back to school. We believe that next year, at least as of today, the recommendations to the governor is to offer in-person learning. If kids want to go off and do distance learning, they might have to do it through ACEs, or they would basically be on their own, which I think is a good thing because we need to get kids back to school. I think I believe some of our bigger challenges are going to be ahead of us, where kids, for example, who were in kindergarten or first grade and stayed out on distance learning, we're not only going to have to teach them we're not only going to have to teach them the academics, but as all of you know, there's a big social component for kids and acclimating them to school and rules and regulations, and also a little bit concerned about our middle school kids. Kids there, if they went out last year in March in 7th grade and they stayed out, excuse me, they stayed out this year, they basically had no middle school experience and they're going to high school. So we are looking at, what supports we can provide the kids for, seeing that they haven't been in school. So those are the challenges that are ahead of us. Again, we do have some money. I really feel like it's important, though, and I said this to the board the other night. So when I go to the council, I'm going to emphasize to them that we're not sitting on $9 million. It's not $9 million additional dollars. Over 2 years, it's about 3 because we're going to supplant our budget. And the third round of funding, we don't know the time frame yet. So, with that, I think that's a pretty good summary of where we are. We did stay in line with the 5-year plan. My concern is, I know that I can speak for our board, I can speak, is that if and when this money runs out, you're going to be digging excuse me, a pretty big hole. City's going to have to step up and put a lot of money into the budget all at once. That's always a fear when you have, when you receive enough state aid like the city of West Haven does.
Did you have more to say? You just wet in
No,
your
no, no, no,
whistle,
no.
or-
I'm all set.
Okay. I don't know, Matt, if you or Chairman Waterfield wanted to, say anything before we jumped in with any questions.
I just want to add one of the things that in my previous term on the Board of Ed and my current term as well, we always talk about the dichotomy of funding between the municipal amount of money that is put toward the Board of Education budget versus the state money that's put toward the Board of Education money. And one of the things that I learned in the very first term that I was in the Board of Ed is that you really need to be careful about how you balance the gap that you create between what you receive from the state and what you put towards the budget as a municipality. If you wind up getting yourself in a position where at some point that state money is not going to be provided to you, then you have a real big hole in your budget that you need to clean up. And you really want to balance what you get from the state. To be fair, is usually not intended for filling the gaps. It's ideally intended to create programs that are going to assist and supplement what you currently pay for in your municipality. And I think, obviously when we're in tough financial situations, as we have been in the past, we need to leverage our dollars carefully and use them where we need to. However, I just want to always make sure that I bring it to, we talk about it at the Board of Ed meetings, and I just want to always remember each year that we come before you guys to bring it to your attention. So it just isn't something that, if God forbid it ever happens in the near future, that you're not surprised by that. I don't ever want someone to say like, oh my God, why didn't you guys ever tell us that, we really should be, I'd rather see us be the more contributing percentage rather than the upside down percentage. And I'm sure Matt or Neil could say that much more eloquently than I did. I'm definitely not a finance person, but that was one of my big concerns. And I just wanted to give one last, I know I spoke with you guys a couple months ago, but I just want to give another shout out again to the incredible job that Neil and the administrative staff, as well as all the teachers and staff at each of our schools, have done to keep kids in school. I speak to many other town Board of Education members and staff members and administrators in my, conversations, and always they say, wow, you guys have been open since September. Like, how did you do it? And I always say, like, we have the best teachers and the best staff. And we had a great plan going in, and we were able to shift our plan. And with Marissa and Jill's help, we were able to shift when we needed to shift. And none of it could have happened without every single member of the Board of Education staff. And I just want to thank them on behalf of myself and the board and the parents and taxpayers of the city, because I think having the kids in school was really critical this year.
Keb, you said that very well. I mean, at least even the first part, more the first part. I mean, I'll take the compliments, but I think one of the things that's important to emphasize is that about, you look at a $90 million budget. Remember, West Haven is very fortunate. You're roughly 50-50 on state aid. And specifically in this budget, or when in the governor's budget, he said supplant. He said, we know you have additional COVID funds, so we're not going to increase your Alliance grant. And again, those are things that, I'd be lying to you if I said we're not going to be okay this year, next year, however, when the funds run out, what happens? So I think that that's a good segue for questions.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that Matt didn't have anything to say. Nothing.
I think the superintendent and chairwoman summed it up pretty nicely. So I'll be waiting for the questions.
And
Well,
by the way, Marissa
I was just-
Acapora is helping us put our grant together for the COVID relief funds. Again, that's targeted money that we have to get approved. So that's why I asked her to be here tonight in case anybody had any questions as to how those funds are going to be spent.
I was absolutely about to ask for Marissa to introduce herself because she's brand new to the table and I wasn't sure exactly what your role is, but thank you for being here. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to kick off since Mr. Cavallero said we could segue into questions. But before I do, I just want to say that I truly appreciate all that your team has done. My daughter goes to the high school. And I don't believe in all that knocking on wood, but we haven't quarantined one time. I don't know how. I have no idea how. I think she must be the only student. But I also know that the really incredible job that, is going on. I just want to say that, I know you have a couple of SEC titles under the belt this year with the girls hockey, the soccer team, the boys basketball team. And I think that is a true testament to you.
Hopefully a couple more coming in spring sports.
Okay, exactly.
No, listen,
I just want to finish really with all. I just want to say I think it's a true testament to you and Joe Morrell, and I know it's complicated. You guys kids are constantly getting quarantined and getting them back in and keeping them going. I just think it's really, really incredible, and I just want to thank you for that because the kids lost so much last year. So hopefully the softball team and the baseball team, track, outdoor track is going to have an opportunity. But please, Mr. Cavallero, go right ahead.
Well, first of all, Coach Morrell is a little bit concerned about softball. They're doing some quarantining right now.
Yeah.
But one thing I think it's important to point out to the members of the council, I shared this with the board the other day. We did, as Councilwoman Hosky just stated, have a terrific year in sports. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the reason we did so well were that our kids were in school and they were in their routines. They developed camaraderie. They got to go to practice every day. When you try to get kids who are home all day to the practice field, to the gym, it's not an easy task. So I think, staying in school certainly led to our success on the field and in the classroom. I mean, we required that if you wanted to play sports, you had to be in school. And I know some people question that, but I think we can see the fruits of our labor.
Most definitely. I have two quick questions before I open it up to the rest of the team council. And I don't know if Marissa can answer this. I know because you were saying she's kind of the COVID. Do you have any expectation now that the vaccine is available for 16 and over to do any clinics at the high school? You probably been planning. I hadn't heard anything. I'm just curious because I know, just tell me whatever you might know about it.
You want to take it, Marissa, or you want me to take it? Good.
Sure. We absolutely do. We're very fortunate that we have partnerships in the state and in some local medical centers that are willing to help us set up a clinic and get that moving. We're hoping within the next few weeks, we will have a solid plan to share. There seems to be some rumor that 12 and up could be shortly approved for Pfizer vaccine as well. So our planning is taking into account that we may be able to vaccinate a larger percentage of our students than we previously thought. So we want to make sure as we're planning for this, that we have the allotment and the space to be able to do this and get it out to our students in a really nice fashion. And we're excited that this can really offer them an opportunity to have that insulation and go forward into their next year with the vaccine, at least their first 2 doses.
I appreciate that information, and I'm just going to share from a personal standpoint. I'm pro-vaccine, right? I got vaccinated, but I have a 16-year-old daughter who's wants nothing to do with it. And I've done, and she chooses her own self. She's old enough, so and I'm sure you guys are doing it. I just want to just really encourage that, or ensure that we are developing a plan that really enables kids to make a sound decision, that they're being informed and, not told, but literally being able to kind of get the information and make decisions what's in their best interest. And it just seems that there's just so much out there that it's really hard to do that. And I'm sure you are doing it, but I just, I have it going on in my own home, None of my children want to be vaccinated.
Actually, one of the student board reps brought that up at the meeting the other day about vaccinating the kids. Well, the next day we received notice from the governor's office that because we're an alliance district, they'll partner with the 33 alliance districts, and part of to vaccinate everyone 16 and older, and part of the alliance would be to they gave us some very good information that we would be able to get out to kids. There's some very good videos, and I also think the strategy is get it in the kids' hands, and you might be able to encourage other family members to get vaccinated as well. I think the other thing is that if we can have a captive audience and do it in the school during the course of the school day, there's no better sense of peer pressure than for kids to say, I'm getting the vaccine because I want to go to the prom, or I want to do graduation, or I'm not staying inside anymore. I think that's all part of the strategy as well.
I just want to jump in for 1 second, only because this is like a pet project of mine. I'm sure if you've been on any other meetings with me, I have talked about the importance of getting vaccinated and encouraging others to get vaccinated. And you all may not know that the Seahawks is not my full-time job. I'm a nurse and I work for Yale New Haven Health System. One of the anecdotal things that we found with vaccines is that the biggest push to get a vaccine is someone that you trust and know and love has gotten a vaccine and has encouraged you to do so. Beside all of the literature that we can provide and the teaching that we can provide and the information that we can pass out, the biggest push to get a vaccine is someone that you believe in has been vaccinated themselves. So I brought this up to Mackenzie Gardner, our student rep, at our meeting on Monday. And that's probably one of the things that we're going to try to encourage kids to do is tell all their friends, like, I've gotten the vaccine and why they've gotten the vaccine and why they think it was a good idea to do so. And Councilwoman Hosky alluded to one of the things that Mackenzie had said, I think, saying, or maybe it was the superintendent, about, I want to go to the prom. I don't want to have to be stuck quarantined. I want to make sure that the end of my year has activities that are fun for me to do. So that's one of the things that we really want to encourage the students to do. And I'm going to put in a little plug for the Board of Health as well that I sit on in the city. If you guys would want to send in your vaccine pictures and the why you were vaccinated, we're also featuring those on the West Haven Health Department Facebook page with our hashtag is #ShowOffYourShot. So if you guys are willing to send in your picture and say why you got vaccinated, I already actually voluntold Councilwoman Hosky that we were going to use her picture. So if anyone else is interested, we would love to have you. So. And Brant.
We would like to do something similar to that end with Lena and our own social media, and really have the kids be a part of that process of advocating for vaccination. And as you were both saying, I think it's very important that they see each other accepting the vaccine, not having ill effects, and then having positive outcomes as a result. And so if we can get the word out as we're planning, Lena will start to post things on social media that kids will have access to, and will hopefully encourage them to at least get the knowledge and get the information about it, so that they are not saying no preemptively.
That's really great.
We didn't even practice that, just so you know. Like, that was a great segue.
I know. Listen, I think that's great. And again, it was only, I'm living it in my house, right? I guess my daughter's like, well, of course, Mom, you're old, you need it. I'm fine. So, great combo. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing those plans with all of us, and even with the community who might end up watching this. So I'm going to open it up to the council. Does anyone have any? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming. Just staying on the COVID conversation for a second. I have a question. So you said 16-year-olds. Now I think the governor said that it is open for 16-year-olds. Do they need parental permission? How does that work? Because I think if I had a child, I would like to know, or, that they are getting it.
Robin,
how does that work?
Yeah, we're in the process of actually setting up the clinics. We think Hill Health Center is going to be partner with us. So I'm sure they're going to have the rules that they have to follow. Now, normally when a kid goes for a vaccine, the parent's supposed to be there. I don't know that we're going to do that, but I would imagine that we're not going to vaccinate anybody without a signed piece of paper or permission slip. Remember, 18-year-olds can do it on their own, but the 16 and 17-year-olds, we would certainly look for some type of parental permission. But we haven't gotten that far. Again, right now it looks like Hill Health Center is going to work with us, but we're finalizing the plans.
Thank you.
Is that all, Councilwoman Hamilton? Anyone else?
I just
Councilwoman,
double check. Sorry, I just want to answer Robin. I believe that children under 18 are not allowed to be vaccinated in the state of Connecticut without parental consent. I'm not positive, but I believe that is a law.
thank you, Chairman Waterfield. Councilwoman Finelli?
Thank you. I do have a couple questions about the budget, but before we get to that, while we're on the vaccine subject, so far I have heard, I teach, for those of you that don't know me, I teach seniors at West Haven High. I have heard pretty good feedback from kids. They've been excited to be able to sign up for the vaccine, and they're happy that they can get it soon. So I think we would have, a good turnout with that. I'm just wondering, do you foresee that being something that down the road would be mandatory to be in school in person, like say for next year or the following year?
I would hope so. I mean, there are a lot of vaccines that, we require before any child could come to school. But I don't know what the future holds. The one thing you got to keep in mind about the vaccine as it currently stands right now, it's experimental. So I don't know that they'd make it mandatory. But I also think that, down the road, it certainly could be mandatory once it's fully approved.
I think, to Neil's point, I think the governor has sidestepped that question on multiple occasions based on the fact that it's still only an EAU medication. But once it's FDA approved, that may change, just like measles, mumps, rubella, that whole situation. But currently, it certainly, I don't think, would be in effect for the next school year.
Wow.
I could be wrong, but I don't see it moving that fast.
Thank you. Yeah, I just kind of assumed that too. I'm thinking more of like, maybe not next year, but the following year. But as far as the budget goes, one thing that just stood out to me, and this is kind of just a clarification question. I noticed that the line items for coordinator salary was more than the principals. And I thought there were more building principals than coordinator. So I must just be missing someone that falls under that category. So aside from like the directors of, pupil personnel and the language arts, the math, the science, athletic director, early childhood development, like who else would fall under the category of a coordinator?
Coordinators would be the science coordinator, the science EL coordinator, the math coordinator, the language arts coordinator. I don't know, Matt, you can speak to this better than I can. Do we put the assistant directors of pupil personnel in there as well, or no?
Yes, my salary comes out of there. Neil's secretary salary comes out of that account, as well as our communications directors comes out of that account. So
okay, that makes sense, because I was adding up,
right,
principals and I think 7 or 8 coordinators, so it wasn't adding up, but that makes total sense. Thank you. And just another clarification on the athletic coach's salary, because I know they have not gotten a raise in decades, but I did notice the the amount was a little higher this year than last year. I'm assuming that $43,000 difference from what we spent last year to what we're requesting this year was because spring sports didn't take place. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
Yep.
And is there another position being added on, because that 175 is higher than the
Our trainer, the athletic trainer, is paid out of that category.
That's good to know. And also just one last thing, the copy center. I know this year, I mean, at the high school anyway, we have not utilized that nearly as much as we normally do. I'm not sure about the elementary schools because I know that they've had more kids in school in person. But in the future, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people will continue with the Google Classroom platform even when kids are back in school and are doing more, things digitally online. Is that something that we've thought about revisiting, that copy center contract, or for the time?
Absolutely. The short answer is yes, Crystal. In fact, last year, before all the COVID stuff happened, we met with Xerox and we posed to them the exact same issues that you are. If we're using these platforms, will we need a copy center? And actually, they were pretty good about it. And we were supposed to spend a lot of time analyzing and, going over the numbers. But again, because things were closed down and many of the Xerox people working from home, we'd never actually sat down to go through the numbers. But we made it clear that we felt that that's exactly what should happen over the next several years. Now, don't think Xerox is just going to walk away. They're developing a whole new set of apps and things that would, that we'd be able to utilize, that they'd want to sell to us. So, they're trying to be one step ahead in the market as well. But that's a really good question, and it's one that we've sat them down with, and we hope to really get together with them and look at the numbers and how many copies we're making, and hope that it's going down.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And that was all, Bridget. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. Councilman Massaro?
Hi, everybody. I'm glad you showed up and help us out here. And as far as I'm concerned, I think our Board of Ed did an excellent job this year and part of last year for education, seeing other surrounding towns are just starting school. I think you did an excellent job, Neil, Cubby. Excellent job. I got two questions. One is for clarification. I go pick up my grandson once in a while at the high school, and I see a bus come and pick up only 2 kids on a whole bus. Is there a reason why that's that way? There's only 2 kids on a bus?
Yeah, that's a good question, Pete. We did not, first of all, Winklevoss took a pretty good hit because of all the distance learning. So we saved a lot of money in our transportation account. But one of the things that we did, and it was a conscious decision from when they first said we can go back to school, we did not reduce the number of buses because we wanted to be able to space the kids out. So certainly, if that were to be happening next year, we'd eliminate the bus, or we'd lessen the number of buses. But this year, we specifically did not take buses away because we wanted to make sure there was ample space for kids on the buses.
Oh, okay. And my other question is this, just for clarification, what's a substitute custodian?
We employ a third-party agency to supply us with substitute custodians.
Oh, okay. So it's an outside firm?
It's an outside contractor, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Neil, Kebby, Marissa, Matt, incredible job this year, really absolutely incredible, to your staffs, to the teachers, just phenomenal. I'm just so proud to be a West Haven resident. Even though I'm single and no kids, I'm still proud to read about, it's proud to see, and just my hat's off to everybody, truly. I do have a few questions specific to the budget. One of them is kind of like deja vu from a year ago. I sat here and my first question last year will be kind of the first question this year. It's really on page 107, our transportation budget. And I know this was a crazy year. I know that it was a crazy year, but from a budgeting standpoint, I do remember last year when we talked that we did increase you guys did increase the physical handicap budget, over $300,000 because there was so many to be determined, if you will. And as it turns out, you were able to get it to almost a level of back to 2020. And then conversely, the VOTEC budget, which was pretty modest, is the big increase. My question on both of these, just generally speaking, for the transportation, are all of these like how many different providers do we have? Because I know it must be a very competitive, a very fluid situation on transportation where you saved an enormous amount of money on one line, at least you're, projecting, and on another line kind of went up. And is that due to particular providers and what's available? Any comment on that?
Yeah, so the amount of money we saved in the public school line item, that was because school was closed. Per the governor's order, the companies were only allowed to charge what they absolutely needed to be able to stay in business and cover all their expenses. For special education, we have up to 7 or 8 providers. It's a yearly bid. Companies bid based on the needs of the students. Some companies could handle more needy students, whereas others can't. And the needier the student, the more pricey the route is. Since they were able to charge as well throughout the shutdown, they were also able to charge for the aides that were on the bus and all their incidentals. So that line item was proportionately more than the public school line item.
So that includes
again, there was an executive order issued from the governor that says, pay your transportation providers or work out a deal, or negotiate with them and work out a deal.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but that includes the aides as well in this number is what you're saying? Just
yes.
So I'm clear. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know we had this talk last year.
Mm-hmm.
Depending upon your population and the needs, that's really it's a wild card sometimes.
Yeah. So luckily we have such a great relationship with the ACEs, and they've decided to enter the transportation field as well. And what they do is they leverage all their surrounding communities that they serve, and they kind of regionalize the transportation. So on one bus, it could be a student, a special needs student from West Haven, from Milford, from Orange. So it's allowed us to really drop the price or drop the overall spend in that line item. And it's absolutely provided us with more competitive pricing for the other vendors as well.
Great. I have a couple more questions, if I may, Madam Chair.
Maybe just be mindful that we just open it up. So like 2 more, please.
Yeah. Okay. I got this one. I have 2 more. These kind of go hand in hand on page 111. Just a general comment on the teaching supplies, which is pretty much flat, $314,000. You read so much about teachers having to buy so much out of their pockets and so forth to basically, I know this past year was a little different, but it's just a very obvious question. I mean, do we find that our teachers are really digging deep in their own pockets to be paying for their teaching supplies, or because I see that the numbers?
No, Barry, that question has been asked many times to me, and I say teachers are always going to go into their own pocket. It's the nature of, I need it tomorrow, my kids need it tomorrow, I'm going to go get it for them. And do we spend enough on supplies? Probably not. But remember that some of the discretionary money that we have in our budget. However, having said that, keep in mind, go back to Crystal's question before. Every child has a Chromebook or a laptop now. We've got several new apps now. We have Promethean boards, which are the big boards you put in the classroom and you plug your computer in. So I think when we think of supplies, it's not just pencils and erasers anymore. We provide the teachers with a lot of technology as well.
Well, when I said this is grouped together, because the other clarification I have, because I have 2 more questions, which I'm going to wait till the end until everybody else cycles through, but since it's on the same page. Just can you distinguish for me? I understand what the teaching supplies are, but the educational media supplies, what's the difference between educational media supplies and the teaching supplies? Just a clarification.
So the educational media supplies are the supplies to outfit our libraries.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just to add 1 point on the teaching supplies. Yes, it is $314,000. Would we love to increase it? Absolutely. But we also use our federal and state grants that we receive to supplement the supplies as well.
Great, great. Well, thank you. I'll come back around the circle later. So thank you very much for now. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, I'll ask a few. Okay. So I had a couple of questions, and I know this is probably going to sound in line with Councilman Cohen. So I was just interested in that, because
You missed Ron. You missed Ron.
He didn't raise his hand. Did you?
2 nights in a row. That's all right.
You must be doing it down low and not showing on my camera. Did you want to go instead of me? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll be happy to go after you, Councilwoman.
Perfect. I lost my train. Oh, textbooks. And I love textbooks, but I'm just curious. So I see that line item went up a little bit, but I'm thinking to myself, why? Only because I know so many of our kids have the Chromebooks, right? And we're not really doing that due to COVID. So it is more of a curious, because a lot of my questions are curious, so that not only that we can be educated, but so can the community who might be wondering themselves, why are we buying textbooks when kids aren't using them or can't share them? So
not only does that line item include, the paper bound textbooks of years ago, it also provides the digital text that we buy for the Chromebooks. It encompasses a lot more than just the, for lack of a better term, old school textbook.
Did Matt just call me old, Kebby?
No,
I think he may.
I believe he did.
That did not come out of my mouth.
That was just easy, right? It just flowed very, it was very fluid, Matt.
I've known you for a long time. You don't have to apologize when you ask us questions. We love the
questions. I appreciate that. So I do have a couple of other questions. If we go to 110, I don't know what page it is on yours. There's a lot of if you look at, like data processing, and you look at, so service contracts is a very large jump from 4,421 to 265,000 for 22. I know there's a reason. I'm hoping that we could just share what that is.
So the reason is because the schools were shut down. Things like security guards, the print center, they weren't used, so they were paid at an extremely reduced rate. So what this budget is doing for things like service contracts and the transportation, it's getting the line items back in accordance to what the normal spend would be in a full school year.
And I appreciate that. And I kind of thought the same thing, but I'm going to do a follow-up, because if you look between 19 and 20, there's a big jump too. So I just wasn't sure if it was that, because in 2019, it was 2,800, and then 2020 it was 248,000. And then it dropped to 4,400. So I just didn't know if.
What line item are you looking at?
Do I not have my glasses on, Matt? Service contracts.
F14?
2019. F14, no, yes.
F14.
My apologies.
In our budget book, I show that the 1920 spend was $248,000, $248,857. The budget for this year is $265,000, and the recommended budget for next year is flat at $265,000.
Okay. What I have in my budget book for service contracts is 2017 is 6,800.
Oh.
2018, 3,600. 2019, 2,800. 2020, 248,000, 4,400. So maybe it's just a typo. So I'm very glad.
Yeah, I could have just the print could have shifted, but
no, and that was perfect.
The service contracts include our IT service, our law service,
right. I didn't know if
Copy
it was
center.
cleaning. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
didn't know if maybe in those years we had to do something big. So no, you know, I appreciate you and
Mhm.
thank you for clearing up that there must be some kind of numerical issue in that. I think I did my 2 questions. Chairman Quagliani.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. So I'm going to pile on here a little bit, but again, I do think it's a testament to the entire school district, from Board of Education to the administration, to the teachers, to the paras, to the custodians, to everybody, the lunch people, all the support staff that were able to keep an in-school environment throughout the year. Again, it's really a success story and it's appreciated. So I just wanted to thank all of you. I know it's not easy trying to manage a pandemic here at a university. It's not easy to do. So I appreciate, all the hard work and, everybody's stepping out of their typical job responsibilities in order to make sure that the students have an in-person experience and they're safe doing so. So thank you all, very much for that. Hey, Matt, I'm going to ask you probably the same type of question that Councilwoman Hosky asked you, because I just looked in your budget book and it's different. So if you look at F26,
Yep.
Police and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
So in our budget book for last year, it says your operating budget was 361,000, and this year it says you're asking for 75,000. But your budget book says it was kind of 75,000 straight across. Which is right?
So it in the past, before last year, that line item paid the school resource officers. We were able to shift that payment to a grant, so it's no longer in the local budget. So this 75,000 encompasses the fire and police services that attend our after-school events and sporting activities.
Ron, we really, because of COVID and just, not wanting a lot of people in the building, we have, and by the way, another third-party service who does a great job. We've got 2 security guards at the elementary schools. We've got several at least two or 3 at Carrigan, several at Bailey, and several at the high school, and they really do a good job. We may have to cut back on that next year as the grant decreases and as we open up, but we never anticipated them being long-term.
Mm-hmm.
We'll never not have anybody, though. We'll always have a security guard at each school.
So the SRO program is funded out of a grant then?
Correct. The Alliance grant currently.
All right. And then, Neil, I think I go to this every year, and in a $90 million budget, it's not a whole lot of money, but I struggle with it. So is there a state statute that, I guess if you could help me, so the students that choose to go elsewhere, if they choose to go to a magnet school or a VOAG school, out of town, like say Lyman Hall, for instance. So do we pay for those students to go there to that school? Do we reimburse that district or whatever?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, we do.
And the transportation as well.
Correct.
Provide the transportation.
Both regular ed and special ed.
And we do, is that a statute, a state statute or something?
It falls under school choice, the school's choice statute. And Lyman Hall is kind of a unique example because they also offer programming that we don't. It's an agricultural school, the same as Sound School. So those are a little unique. We don't currently pay for the regular ed students that choose to attend New Haven Magnet School. We do pay for the special education services. I know there has been some talk of New Haven wanting to charge for the regular ed students, but I believe there's a lengthy process that would entail. But it is something they're looking to do, and if it is, it will be extremely costly for our town.
And is that so? Paying for the students to go out of state and providing transportation, is that consistent, like through Connecticut education?
Absolutely.
Ron, the neat thing or the great thing about that for a district like West Haven is we've got about 1,000 kids. At least we did. I think there are less now because we were open and New Haven wasn't, so many came back. But we receive reimbursement from the state based on those kids as does New Haven. So it's really important for us to monitor and track where those kids are, that they register with us, even if they don't ever walk through our doors and they go to a magnet school. So it's actually a good formula for us right now.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And just one last thing. Yeah, I want to mention another what I think is a success and a collaboration between the city, the Board of Education, the high school. I think the high school project is something that really is a success. I mean, I've watched, and I know that Mitch is our liaison to that, but I mean, I've watched that project over the last several years. I've been to a few of those meetings, and to be able to, it's a very intricate and difficult project. It's not like you're building a new school in a nice blank piece of land. So it's in order to be able to do that, what you've accomplished with the student learning environment and now what it's transformed into, I think is incredible. And I'm excited to I see funding set aside for the Washington School project. And would you be able to give me like a high level? I would imagine it's gonna be the same kind of project, right? Kind of build in place. And is there some timelines that are set to that project yet?
Yeah, actually, Ron, as you know, I mean, you've been around a while. The high school project took a long time to get off the ground. We don't anticipate that with Washington at all. In fact, I know the building committee, Ken and the building committee they're going to put out to bid the architects, which is the first step. We did some things to kind of delay the high school project without losing the funding, but we think that this one's going to go pretty quickly, and we anticipate 3 or 4 years from now, you'll see a new Washington school. But yes, it's going to be a difficult project. It's funny. I have a book in my office of the 100th year when Washington School turned 100 years old. And if you look at the building back then, I don't even think there was a road. And one of the most difficult things on there is going to be figuring out the traffic patterns and making sure there's adequate bus turns and, parent drop-offs and things like that. But it will be, we're knocking the whole building down. We are not renovating any of the building. So most of the building will be where the courtyard playground area is now.
I just wanted to put in there, you mentioned the high school project, and Ken gave us a presentation on Monday, and I just wanted to point out that not only is the project moving along at a great pace, and all students in September will be in new space. There will be still construction in the C wing and the but that will not be occupied by students. So in September, when they go back to school, I say September because I hate to say August, when they go back to school, they'll all be in brand new space. There'll be no more students in old space at the high school. And it is coming in, I don't quote me, but I think it's several $1 million under budget at present time. They're still no, I can't think of the word that Ken always uses. That there's money aside just in case, but it looks like that we will be able to come in on time and under budget, thanks to Ken's hard work, as well as he added in 6 more classrooms that were taken out before he had started working on the project, and several other things that I can't name off the top of my head. But I know our meeting is taped. If you watch his presentation toward the end of the meeting, he gives an update on all the project that he's working on for the school system. So I just wanted to give Ken a little shout out because I think that's a really incredible job. That will mean less money that we need to bond for in the end.
Yeah, he's done a great job. In fact, the other thing that we've done, with several of our grants and even some COVID money is, which I think is going to be really important. We've, several years ago, we put a lot of money into the pool, which was in bad need of help. We're investing in the rink right now. We added, we negotiated with the city and we took over the tennis courts. And we need an adequate place for our kids to play varsity tennis. I mean, Painter Park needs some work, to say the least. And I think that, it's really going to be a community college atmosphere and really nice overall experience for our kids. fact, we can't wait to get the general people and public from West Haven in to see the auditorium, in to have events at the cafeteria. You know, again, we did work at the rink this year. We put new bleachers in. So, you know, people are very pleased with the, I guess the frill, not frills, but some of the things that, you know, you don't necessarily have to go to West Haven High School in order to appreciate your community facility, because that's what a high school is.
No, and I appreciate that. I'm glad you mentioned the rink, because we have one of the best ones too. So, listen, you know, I may put you on the spot on this one, but you know, we struggle. So we've been working with the library to find adequate spaces for them to be able to have places where the community could gather and utilize space and Wi-Fi and internet. And I just wanted to, and I don't even need a response, but I mean, I think one thought that always comes to my mind, and I thought maybe, you know, you had said something in the past about maybe the opportunity for the library and the school system to collaborate. Now, I get it. We have to get past COVID, and there may be, you know, how the buildings are laid out. But I know that the high school has a beautiful, you know, media center that they just put in there. So I just didn't know your thoughts, if there was any collaborative areas that we could probably expand on with the library.
Yeah, Ron, that's actually an easy question, because whether it's opening up our gyms or our libraries or our other facilities, you know, I'm a big believer that they're community facilities, and the more people that can utilize them and enjoy them, you know, again, Colleen's been pretty good to work with over at the library, but she's done a lot of pretty creative things, and we've partnered with them. I know some of those board members are tough, so trying to get them to change their ways, not the easiest thing in the world. But yeah, we would welcome, you know, opening up our schools and libraries. In fact, the only thing is, like, you know, libraries or media centers aren't quite the same as they used to be. And now that we have one-on-one Chromebooks, we're kind of in the middle of the process of, you know, do we keep these labs in here, or do we, you know, send all the computers? No, we're not going to do that at the high school, which is, you know, brand new, state of the art, brand new. But do we really need computer labs anymore, for example, which would be something that the public would take advantage of? You know, is it better to invest in, you know, one-on-one Chromebooks or laptops or things like that?
Great.
One of the points of the high school building too was when we were in the design phase, was on my previous term on the Board of Ed, prior to my short departure. That was one of the things that we really stressed with the design process, was that the public spaces in the school building are much more easily accessible to the public without disturbing the routine of the school day. In the past, you know, you had to go through the main lobby and down the hall past classrooms to access a lot of areas in the high school that were more public spaces. And with the setup and the build that we have now, it's a much safer layout for the students and staff if there is a event going on at the high school to access those areas that are more in line with public use.
Great. No, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I think there's more. Hopefully, there's more to come on that. Councilman Hosky, thank you.
Just two things, just to follow up kind of with what you said, Mr. Cavallero, is in regards to Washington School. As you know, I live 5 houses down from it, right? And that is, you know, the community, you know, and the kids, and definitely we do need a new school. But as you said, the traffic and the impact, it's a little bit different than the high school. You know, it's kind of behind people's houses. So there is some concerns in the community. And I know that we've had this discussion, so that when we do break ground and we do start moving forward, you know, I hope that we invite the community and the neighbors to kind of come in and learn. Not that I don't want to answer my door to my neighbors complaining about it, but I would just rather be proactive than reactive. But I am very excited. You know, I all the time I share with them what's to come over there. And so when you find out more, we'd love to know more as well.
If it's anything like the high school, Bridget, I know the architects and the general contractors did a really good job of working with the neighborhood, working with the neighbors, especially over in front of the high school, and addressed most of their concerns. They were really good about, plans and, timing and what's going to happen now and then. And, so I anticipate the same kind of service to the residents, because when it's all said and done, they'll have a great new facility, and it'll actually, again, in my opinion, will, rejuvenate the neighborhood. I think building schools is a good thing, but there's a lot of inconvenience along the way. We get that.
And I think you touched on, I'm sorry, my dog, some of the stuff that you did touch on is some of the programming that goes on in the schools that, a lot of people don't know. I know Desmond Lyman, I think it's part of the Park and Rec, where he holds a lot of basketball clinics, I think, or basketball nights at Kerrigan, and they do, different things. And, West Haven High School, you opened it up to the basketball camp this summer. So, I definitely recognize that. And I know there's that availability for people to have programming at the schools, which I think is great. You did mention the pool, but you didn't mention about your lifeguard program and how you're going to. So, I mean, if you want to just elaborate and share that with.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of heard the idea. For those of you that don't know, I worked my way up from locker room attendant in high school to lifeguard to all the way up to superintendent at school. So it's a program near and dear to my heart. What we did a few weeks back, we said, Jesus, we're not utilizing the pool as well as we should. When I was in high school, I was able to take the lifeguard course right at West Haven High School. George Hanchetti, that name may ring a bell to some of you, was the phys ed teacher at the high school who worked out of the pool, and that class was taught. And he also worked part-time for the park department and used to be in charge of the lifeguards. So just a couple of weeks ago, we were able to train, I think it was three gym teachers and one of our English teachers, Aaron McCauley, who's very involved with swimming in the community. And they're now certified to teach kids how to be lifeguards, which, I can say firsthand is maybe one of the greatest summer jobs of all time,
And I know that you talked about some other programs that you're going to be doing or planning. And I know there's stuff with the community house. And can you speak to some of the things you think you're going to be doing over the summer, or what's in the works that, you can just give us a high level?
Marissa actually had a meeting with the community house. And Matt, Marissa, and I had a meeting with an advisor from the state and gave us some ideas. So maybe Marissa, if you want to talk about some of the what we have going with the community house.
Sure. What we're doing with some of the funding, what we're doing really this summer is not looking at summer programming as academic in its focus, because kids really need the social emotional piece. We really need to get kids reconnected to our school community. We want to look at the whole child, pre-K up through 12. So the focus of our programming will be reconnection with community programs, reconnection with their peers, and involving our staff, who are, quite frankly, very tired. They've worked very, very hard. We know that it's going to be difficult to get buy-in from teachers to work a summer after a school year that they've balanced as much as they have this year. And so not only for that reason, but for the reason that the community is such a crucial component to getting our kids back into the school buildings and re-engage with learning, we'll partner with the community house. Hopefully we'll do some programs with Parks and Rec. Our coaches will get involved, theater groups at the high school, perhaps some enrichment opportunities so that we can use some of our new facilities, and the teachers who have such an investment in their subject area. So really what we're trying to do is bring kids back and give them an incentive for wanting to be in our schools and with our staff and with each other after what's been a very unusual over a year of time. And I think that by targeting some of our most at-risk students that potentially were not as engaged for the school year, the attendance may have not been very good, or they may have been in an opt-out model for an extended period. If we can make those opportunities available to those students upfront, what we're hoping to do is close some of the gap that occurs through the kind of two different models of learning that we've had over the last year. The robust learning that we have turned to online that we've been able to offer is wonderful, but you can't replicate what teachers can do in a classroom. The instructional models that we provide online just can't compare to it, face-to-face, in-person, social interaction and reciprocity that you get in a classroom. So we're really trying to get kids back. And I think our partnerships will do that. They'll start to really get kids excited about being with one another again. And that percentage of students that have been opted out, we're hoping that they really turn the corner. And when our new, we won't say August, we will say September, like you said, when that rolls around, we're hoping that students are really invested in coming back, because I think that once we've had a respite from this year, our teachers are going to be dying to get back in those classrooms.
So
You guys all didn't see Crystal has her cape tucked in after all the hard work these teachers put in last year, but she usually keeps it tucked in, but it's there.
Is there going to be, when you look at developing these programs, I think probably the biggest concern to me is transportation. Is there going to be a transportation component to this to ensure that those children at risk? Okay. And I'm sure there was, but I just like to hear it. Makes me feel better.
No, Bridget, you raise a good point though, because, one of the things we struggle with is, we can offer a camp. And by the way, I liked, we met with our advisor from the state yesterday when we were talking about the grants. Says, call it a camp. You don't call it summer school. So kids are more apt to want to go to it. But, one of the things is that we need to target a certain segment of our population, not the same people that the day you put out for sign up for this, they're the first ones to sign up for every camp in the city. We need to go out and say, look, we think you're an ideal candidate for this. We can provide you with transportation. We can pay the tuition. Don't worry about it. Because again, it's not the people that, they're involved in everything. We need to get kids involved that haven't been engaged in almost a year or over a year.
Our schools have done a really good job too of tracking those students. So we always kind of have our finger on the pulse of where our students that are most at risk are and why they are at risk. So our EL, for instance, our EL department has done an excellent job of outreach to the families to find out the reasons if they were in an opt-out model, why, and what can we do to get you back. So as we compile our lists and we look at those students, like the superintendent was saying, that are the most at-risk group, we're really doing so with the mindfulness of, would these opportunities exist for these students in the absence of something that we facilitated? And those are the kids we really want to pull back in. We want to make sure that that gap is bridged between the kids who have these opportunities on an ordinary basis and the kids who truly do not, and then take into account the factors that have existed in the last year that have impacted them so much.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone else have questions? I'm sorry, I could go on. Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, Neil, Kevin, Matt, Marissa, and all the teachers, I applaud you all for a tremendous job with what we had to go through for the last year with our students. Again, thank you all for doing that. This is more for Matt. My question was answered, but the clarification on those service contracts, you were saying FY 17, 18, 19 in our books is a clerical error.
Yeah, I don't have your book in front of me. I don't think I got a cut, but
okay.
Yeah, for service contracts, the spend's always over in the 200,000s. Like I said, it's for our IT services. We outsource our entire IT department, law firm services. So it's a pretty consistent yearly spend.
Yeah, the only time we kind of bump it up is if we know we have a lot of negotiations and we're going to be, working with our law firm more.
Yeah,
When
no,
that-
I totally
That's when you would see a jump.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just wondered if there was a way we can get the actual numbers, so
Absolutely.
there's no
Yeah.
question, or people have questions for, like myself, if they ask, I have the answers for them.
Not a problem at all.
Thank you very much. Thanks again for everybody. And Neil, the cough, is that from Wednesday?
Say that again?
Is that your residual from Wednesday?
What's that?
The coughing?
Gary, I battled COVID about a month ago and I'm still not over it. So,
It's
you know.
okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you again. That's all.
Councilwoman O'Connor. Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Sorry, Councilwoman O'Connor.
Thank you, Chairwoman Hosky. I think mine is more of a suggestion. First off, I want to say everyone involved in the school system deserves a big round of applause. I mean, the things that you guys have done to prove to the kids that you really care is phenomenal. So this goes for next year. I really feel that a snow day is a rite of passage that everyone deserves, especially heroes deserve a day to stay in their pajamas. So weather permitting, please, 1 or 2 snow days is not going to hurt the budget, nor will it hurt anyone.
Well,
And
that's not
that's
necessarily
my
true.
2
If you
cents.
do remote learning, you don't pay for buses during the course of the day.
Thank you, Chairwoman Hosky.
But let me tell you, what my idea is for next year. First of all, we invested a lot so that kids can learn remotely and teachers can teach remotely. However, having said that, what I think we would do next year is pick up a day or look at, the board just adopted their calendar for next year. Now, what we would say is we have so many days because we don't want to go beyond a particular date. So we would try to space the snow days out with the remote learning days. I think what a lot of people fail to realize is that we're here to educate kids, not give them days off. And one of the things that, has happened, actually it hasn't happened in a couple of years, but a few years back when it snowed, we were losing 2 or 3 days in a row because of the amount of snow and whatnot. And that's a critical time of the year. And what you don't want to do is have gaps or disrupt the kids' education. So I think next year there can be a balance where we look at a target date where we'll say, look, we won't go beyond this date, but so we'll give them a remote day here. I tried to pick the day we did the snow day this year. I tried to pick a long weekend day, which I thought was kind of a fun, great thing for the kids. So we're not against snow days, but we need to be mindful that you can't disrupt the continuity of instruction over a period of time. And, at the end of the day, I can tell you, just as a teacher, that the instructional time is much more productive in January or February than it is in June. So, I mean, that all weighs into it, but yeah, we think next year we kind of got a good, we will have a good balance of snow days and remote learning days.
Thank you. That's all I asked for, was a balance. I appreciate that. I'm done. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Councilwoman Finelli?
Sorry, and I know we're getting off topic because this is not about the budget, but I just have to say I absolutely agree with Superintendent Cavallaro. From a teaching point of view, to tackle those days on in June, all the standardized testing is done, so you're missing out on all those days to prepare them for the test. And it's so broken up in those years where we get like lately, end of January, we get 2 days off a week. Then February comes, next week we get another 2 days off for snow. So I think it's been, I mean, this year has been chaotic anyway, but I did like having the distance learning days for the snow days because we were able to keep some consistency. And, you know, I hear a lot of parents saying, oh, we want them to play in the snow, but we, early on when we did distance learning days, they were half days. So the kids, they go in, they get their school done in the morning, and then they have the afternoon to play in the snow. And like, I think most of the time kids like to make a big deal about dressing up to go outside, and then they go outside for 10 minutes and it's cold and they come back inside anyway. And like, I know a lot of the high school kids, they're sleeping until 11 o'clock on a snow day. So I would rather see them get up, get on the computer, do your schoolwork, and then you go and enjoy some free time in the snow, and they can stay in their pajamas on the computer. So sorry, I just wanted to chime in with on that because I do kind of feel strongly about the whole snow day thing. And I really do like the distance learning days on snow days. So.
And we also need to remember that a lot of our buildings are not air conditioned. So as you get to the days in June, it's a lot harder to maintain their focus when the room is hot and they're thinking about going outside. And also, you know, parents also really like to plan end of the year celebrations, whether it's an 8th grade graduation or a high school graduation. If they have family coming in from out of town and we have to shift those days when the school year dates change, and it's, you know, you're worried about, you know, when are you going to be able to fit those activities in at the end of the year? As well as maintaining their focus for, you know, 6 half days at the end of the year are not as much instructional time as, you know, 6 half days or 6 full days in January and February. So I just wanted to echo that.
Yeah, no, listen, and teachers want to make plans, start making their summer plans, and, you know, we plan for summer school and things like that. So to know when we're getting out of school is kind of a good thing. But I think, again, next year we'll be able to balance it out and maybe plan a couple of snow days, but keep the continuity of instruction.
Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few of my questions already answered, but just on the page 110 on the purchase services, I believe it was Councilman Donegan mentioned this, if we could somehow get to Frank or whatever, or get to us, the revised sheet, because it's kind of hard to follow on some of these. With that said, could you just confirm for me, Matt, on purchase services F04 printing and publishing? Could you just tell me what you have in your book for full year 20 actual and forward? Because it's not making sense to me. Even when I shift, it doesn't make sense. So if you can just read that off, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. The 1920 actual spend was 21,063, and then the next 2 years budgets are $35,000.
Okay, so the 700. Okay, and we're going to get a sheet on that. So I'm not going to belabor that because everybody else has talked about a number of things here, and it probably makes sense. The only other question that I had was on page 109, operation of plant, D14, custodial supplies. It's really more of a curiosity. I know that the operating budget in 21 was 40,000, and we're going to keep it at 40,000. I see that you guys had a higher request of 163. I'm guessing, will you just have some COVID money to cover that, or, you know, such a big ask, and then we went back to, you went from 163 and then you went back to the 40,000. Is that because of COVID that we're going to be covering that gap, or any thoughts?
We did have some COVID money to offset some of the expenses, but again, I think there's,
because it's like 4 times as much. That's why I'm saying, like, you
yeah. So
I
think what happens in this operating budget is when we submit our request to the mayor and it's higher than what is allocated to us, I believe Frank or whoever is the finance director goes in and makes the changes to our budget based on what he sees or what he feels we may be able to cut in. But once we get the total allotment, we go back to our board with our budget and where we think it is, and that's when our budgeted line items are approved. So I think that could explain some of the differences in
Well, there was such a
in the-
large gap on that one, and I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
right.
so I mean, I could provide, the materials to make up for the differences. But I think that's what is making some confusion.
Yeah, because I think out of all of, and I totally get that. They got to be re-scrubbed a bit, and I respect that. I just, that one pointed out to me because of the difficult year that we had, because I think where there's higher standard deviations, if you will, with your budgeting, just generally speaking, and again, this is an overlapping comment, nothing more than that, that the operation of the plant is where there was in several cases higher ask by about 100,000 or 140,000, and then they got I wouldn't say they got reproportioned. I'll say I won't say they got more.
So
or less. Yeah.
so current fiscal year, with our first round of COVID funding relief, we did a significant amount of HVAC work, HVAC repair, upgrade our controls, clean the air filters, just to get the air ready for the teachers and students to come back to school. So we were definitely able to offset our budget a lot current fiscal year. And then again, I think just the difference is Frank trying to get the number back to what it should be, and having to make some cuts to some line items that just to get the budget to fit.
I don't envy you or Frank to recalibrate. So after the year we've had to try to recalibrate this to give it some sense of normal, I totally appreciate that. That is the only two questions I had left. They've been asked, they've been answered, and thank you so much, all of you, for coming this evening. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Chairman Quagliani?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. Yeah, so Neil, I know that, you had the discussion about remote day and snow day. I just, considering all the things that we've seen on social media, I'm hoping that if you do have a snow day next year, that maybe you'll sing it or do some nice rhyme or parody or something.
I've been asked, but I was a math teacher, Ron.
Oh, it's all right. It'll add up for you. So I just, yeah, that's my only comment. I'd love to hear that. So thank
I
you.
may be able to work that into the next contract negotiation. I don't know.
Anyone else with any questions? Well, again, I just want to thank you all for attending. It is appreciated, and we thank you for everything you do for the city on an everyday basis and the children you serve. So with
Councilwoman
that,
Hosky, I just had one thing to add. I just wanted to mention that we had a really great Board of Ed meeting on Monday. It's available to view online. We had a lot of discussion about how to support some of the students that have struggled. All of the students have struggled this past year, especially at the high school level, with support services and things that can help them pursue what they want to do after high school, potentially an EMT class that could lead to a job with one of our fire departments or one of our local ambulance services, some help. Dana's done a great job with getting the kids to complete their FAFSA, because that's step one. If they want to go to any college, they need to get that FAFSA completed. And that's a pretty hard thing to navigate by yourself if you're not getting any guidance at home. And I think Dana's done a great job with some lotteries about getting your FAFSA in. We have 6 guidance counselors, I believe 6 at West Haven High School, that work with all the students there. And I think that they do a great job. And we're going to try to, Neil had mentioned bringing some collaborative efforts between the teachers and the support staff and the guidance office to help kind of, get these kids to where they need to be because they have suffered so much. I know it's not really related to the budget, but I do know that this is a topic that is important to all of us as citizens in town. So I just wanted to bring it up so you guys would be aware, and you could get many more details from people who are way more knowledgeable on the subject than I am right here at this moment. And I thank you all for the praise for a great job over the past year, but I truly, while I appreciate the comments, I truly take no credit for what has happened, because I am merely somebody that goes to the meetings and calls Neil on the phone and talks a lot. Everyone else is the one who carried out all of the hard work.
thank you, Chairman Waterfield. That is appreciated. And I think you take time to brag, right? And take time to make sure that the community knows the hard work that they don't see, right? We tend to hear a lot of the negative, but we don't tend to recognize the positive. So you say as much as you want about it. So we do appreciate that. With that said, if there's nothing else, it is 7:29 and we are in recess until Tuesday at 6. No, that's a lie. April, I'm on vacation. So
April
20th, 19th,
19th.
19th. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Bridget.